The door chime tinkled softly as a man stepped inside, his face half hidden under a faded baseball cap pulled low. A scruffy beard clung to his jaw, rough and uneven, masking features only he'd recognize in the mirror. To the bustling world of Santa Monica, he was just another nobody drifting through, maybe a guy down on his luck, hands stuffed in the pockets of a worn jacket. But beneath that disguise beat the heart of Ethan Carter, the elusive CEO of Harbor Brew, a chain of 15 coffee shops stretching across California's sun-soaked coast. Ethan hadn't walked into one of his own locations as a regular Joe in years, not since the early days when he poured his soul into building this dream from a single shack on Venice Beach. Back then, Harbor Brew was all about good coffee and good vibes. But lately, whispers of trouble had reached his ears, sharp and persistent, sales tanking, staff jumping ship, and that warm spirit he'd fought for? It was fading fast, so today he wasn't the polished suit from the boardroom. He was Jake, a scruffy everyman with sharp eyes and a gut feeling something was seriously off. As he pushed through the glass door of the Santa Monica branch, the familiar scent of roasted beans hit him, but it couldn't mask the unease settling in his chest. Ethan adjusted his cap, tugging it lower, and scanned the room. This wasn't just a random visit. For weeks, reports had piled up like unpaid bills. Customer complaints about rude baristas, employees quitting in droves, and regional managers feeding him excuses about supply chain snags or tough competition from those big chains down the street. Ethan wasn't buying it. He'd built Harbor Brew on instinct, and that instinct screamed something was rotting under the surface. Tired of filtered memos and corporate spin, he decided to go undercover, starting right here, at a location flagged for shaky management. No one knew the real Ethan Carter was stepping in, and that's exactly how he wanted it. He needed the raw, unpolished truth, straight from the source. The line of customers stretched lazily toward the counter, and Ethan blended in, keeping his head down. The clatter of cups and the low hum of chatter filled the air, but something felt off. His eyes darted around, taking it all in. The baristas moving like they'd rather be anywhere else, the vibe more stale than yesterday's brew. And then, just as he shuffled forward, he froze mid-step. What he saw next. It hit him like a shot of espresso to the gut. Stick around, folks. This story's just heating up, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. If you're hooked already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a single twist. Let's dive deeper into Ethan's world together, because this is Harbor Brew like you've never seen it before. The air inside Harbor Brew hung heavy, like a fog rolling off the Pacific that wouldn't lift. Ethan Carter, still undercover as Jake, stood in line, his cap pulled low, eyes darting across the Santa Monica coffee shop he'd built from nothing. The hum of conversation mixed with the clink of cups, but it all felt lifeless. Baristas shuffled behind the counter, their movements sluggish, like they were clocking hours instead of crafting coffee. Ethan's stomach churned. This wasn't the Harbor Brew he'd poured his heart into back on Venice Beach. That place had buzzed with energy, with smiles, with people who cared. Now? It was a shell, and he could feel it in his bones. For weeks, the reports had stacked up. Sales slipping, staff bailing, customers griping about cold service. Regional managers blamed supply chains or Starbucks down the block. But Ethan knew better. Something was broken here, and he was about to find out what. He shifted his weight, hands deep in his pockets, blending into the line of sleepy regulars. That's when he spotted her. Rachel, the manager, her name tag pinned crooked on her shirt. She leaned against the wall near the espresso machine, scrolling her phone, her thumb flicking like she was swiping through TikTok instead of running a shop. Ethan's jaw tightened. This was the efficient hire the regional team had raved about? He'd see for himself. The line inched forward, and he was about to step up when the door swung open, a faint jingle cutting through the noise. A man edged inside, clothes tattered, a plastic bag clutched tight in his hands, his face weathered like the cliffs along Highway 1. He moved slow, hesitant, scanning the room like he wasn't sure he belonged. Ethan held his breath, watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Rachel's head snapped up, her phone dropping to her side. She stormed toward the man, arms crossed, her voice slicing through the air like a foghorn. "Hey, you! Out! We don't serve people like you here." The man flinched, raising a shaky hand. "I just want some water," he mumbled, barely loud enough to hear. "I'm not bothering anyone." Rachel's eyes narrowed, her tone climbing higher. "I said no. This isn't a handout joint. Get lost before I call the cops." The man's shoulders slumped, defeat carving lines deeper into his face. "Sorry," he whispered, turning toward the door, his plastic bag rustling like a sad little goodbye. Ethan's chest burned, a slow simmer of anger bubbling up. This wasn't just bad service. This was cold, hard rejection, the kind that didn't belong in a place he'd built to feel like home. He couldn't stay quiet. "Wait," Ethan said, stepping out of line. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried, steady and firm. Rachel whipped her head around, glaring like he'd just spilled coffee on her phone. "This doesn't concern you," she snapped, folding her arms tighter. Ethan ignored her, moving toward the man. "You just want water, right?" he asked, keeping his tone even. The man nodded, his tired eyes flickering with a spark of hope. "I'll leave right after, I swear." Ethan turned back to Rachel, locking eyes with her. "It's just water. Why can't he have a cup?" Rachel rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with disdain. "We're not a charity. People like him scare off paying customers. You wouldn't get it." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the ribs. He clenched his fists, forcing the anger down, keeping his cover intact. "I'll pay for it," he said, low but unyielding. "Give him a cup. And a sandwich while you're at it." Rachel's mouth opened, ready to argue, but something in his stare made her pause. She huffed, jerking her head toward the counter. "Fine, whatever. Your money." Ethan handed the man a cup and pointed to a corner table. "Take your time. You're not in anyone's way." The man nodded, gratitude flashing in his eyes as he shuffled off. Rachel muttered something under her breath, retreating to her phone, while a young barista shot Ethan a quick, nervous glance, half thankful, half wary. He stepped back into line, ordering a black coffee to keep up the act, but his mind was racing. This wasn't just one bad moment. It was a symptom, a crack in the foundation of everything Harbor Brew stood for. He'd come for answers, and he'd found a mess. But he wasn't done digging, not by a long shot. Stick around, folks, because this brew's about to get stronger. The next morning, Ethan Carter pulled his baseball cap lower, the fake scruff still itching against his jaw. He slipped back into the Santa Monica Harbor Brew, but this time he wasn't just a customer. He'd decided to push his undercover mission further, posing as a new hire to get behind the counter, to see the mess up close. The bitter taste of yesterday still lingered, that moment when Rachel turned away a homeless man like he was trash on the beach. Ethan couldn't shake it. He'd built Harbor Brew to be a haven, not a cold corporate machine. And what he'd seen so far? It was a gut punch. With a notebook tucked in his pocket, he stepped through the door, the chime jingling faintly, and steeled himself for the day ahead. He approached Rachel, scratching the back of his head to sell the nervous newbie act. "Hi, I'm Jake," he said, voice a little shaky. "They told me to start today. Said check in with the manager." Rachel barely glanced up from her phone, her eyes flicking over him like he was a fly buzzing too close. "We're slammed," she muttered, waving a hand toward the counter. "Shadow Sophie for now. She'll show you the ropes." Without another word, she went back to scrolling, her thumb dancing across the screen. Ethan nodded and moved toward Sophie, the young barista he'd noticed yesterday, the one with the quick hands and wary smile. She was in her early 20s, dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her movements fast but strained as she juggled orders. "Hey, I'm Jake," he said, offering a small grin. Sophie glanced at him, her hazel eyes cautious but warm. "Hi, Jake. Didn't know we had a new guy today," she said, her voice soft. "It's kind of a mess here, but I'll walk you through it." Ethan liked her instantly. There was a quiet strength in her, a flicker of heart despite the chaos. Sophie handed him an apron and started explaining the basics, punching orders into the register, pouring coffee, handling the morning rush. As they worked, Ethan kept one eye on Rachel. She hovered near the counter, barking orders when she bothered to look up. "Sophie, speed it up!" she snapped at one point, even as Sophie wrestled with a line of 6 customers, her fingers flying over the keys. Ethan gritted his teeth, pouring a latte while watching Rachel do nothing to help. Sophie just nodded, her jaw tight, and kept going. She was good, efficient, polite, but the pressure was wearing her thin. The tension spiked an hour into the shift. A woman in a sharp blazer stormed up to the counter, her heels clicking like gunfire on the tile. "This is ridiculous," she said, slamming a cup down. "I ordered a soy latte, not this sugary junk. I'm a regular here. Doesn't that mean anything?" Ethan recognized her type, a VIP customer who thought the world spun for her. Sophie paled, reaching for the cup. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll fix it right now." Before she could, Rachel swooped in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "What's the problem here?" The woman glared. "The problem is your staff can't get a simple order right. I don't have time for this." Rachel didn't hesitate. "Sophie, what's wrong with you today?" she said loudly, turning heads. "You're making us look bad. Fix it, and don't mess up again." Sophie's face flushed, her hands trembling as she remade the drink. "It's not her fault," Ethan said, stepping forward, his tone even. "The order got mixed up in the rush." Rachel shot him a look that could have curdled milk. "Mind your business, newbie. She's the one screwing up." The VIP woman huffed, grabbed her new latte, and stalked off, muttering about incompetence. Sophie whispered a shaky thanks to Ethan, but the damage was done. Rachel lingered, berating Sophie in front of the next customers. "If you can't handle this, maybe you shouldn't be here," she said, loud enough for the whole shop to hear. Ethan's fists clenched in his apron pockets, but he stayed quiet, pulling out his notebook when Rachel turned away. He scribbled fast. Rachel blames staff for her own failures. Sophie overworked, unsupported. His pen dug into the paper, anger simmering beneath his calm facade. As the shift dragged on, Rachel's attitude only got worse. She snapped at a teenage barista for asking about a shift change, ignored a spilled tray of cups, and rolled her eyes when an old guy asked for help reaching the sugar packets. Meanwhile, Sophie hustled, wiping counters, refilling stock, even apologizing to customers Rachel had ticked off. Ethan shadowed her, pretending to learn, but really cataloging every move. "Does she ever pitch in?" he asked during a rare lull, nodding toward Rachel. Sophie hesitated, glancing over her shoulder. "Not really," she admitted. "She says managing's her job, not grunt work." Ethan's stomach twisted. This wasn't management, it was laziness dressed up as authority. He jotted another note. Rachel disengaged. Toxic staff morale low. By the end of the shift, he had pages of dirt and a fire in his chest he couldn't ignore. This place was a mess, and Sophie was the only thing holding it together. He'd seen enough to confirm the reports, and then some. Tomorrow, he'd push harder. For now, he slipped his notebook away, the weight of it all settling like sand in his shoes. Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to boil over. Hit subscribe if you're with me. Ethan's got a fight ahead, and you won't want to miss it. The lunch rush had barely settled at Harbor Brew, the air still thick with the hiss of steam and the clatter of cups. Ethan Carter, still undercover as Jake, wiped down a counter beside Sophie, his notebook burning a hole in his pocket. 2 days of watching Rachel run this Santa Monica shop into the ground had piled up like wet coffee grounds, messy, bitter, and hard to ignore. He'd planned to bide his time, gather more evidence, but the tension crackled like static before a storm. Sophie darted between the register and the espresso machine, her exhaustion plain as day, while Rachel lounged near the back, scrolling her phone like it was her real job. Ethan kept his head down, waiting for the next crack to split wide open. It came faster than he expected. The door swung open, a faint chime cutting through the hum, and a woman stepped in. A toddler clinging to her leg, tugging at her frayed coat. She was in her 30s, a diaper bag slung over one shoulder. her face etched with the kind of tired that doesn't wash off. The kid whimpered, rubbing his eyes, and she hushed him softly as she approached the counter. "Can I get a small coffee?" she asked Sophie, her voice quiet but polite. Before Sophie could ring it up, the toddler's whimpers turned into a sharp cry, echoing off the walls. The woman crouched, whispering apologies to him, but Rachel's head snapped up like a shark smelling blood. She stormed over, her voice booming. "Hey, you need to take that noise outside. This isn't a daycare." The woman straightened, her face flushing. "I'm sorry, he's just tired. I'll calm him down. I only need a minute." Rachel cut her off, her tone rising. "I don't care. Paying customers don't want to hear your kid screaming. Get out." The woman's eyes widened, a mix of shame and defiance flickering there. "I said I'm sorry," she repeated, louder. "I'll leave after I get my coffee." Ethan froze, his rag still in hand, watching the scene unfold. Sophie stepped forward, her voice shaky but firm. "Rachel, it's fine. I'll get her order quick. She's not bothering anyone." Rachel whirled on her, eyes blazing. "Excuse me? You don't tell me what's fine, Sophie. Keep mouthing off, and you're out of a job." Sophie flinched but held her ground. "She's a customer. We don't treat people like this." The toddler wailed louder, and Rachel's patience snapped. "That's it. Both of you, out, now." The words hit Ethan like a match to dry grass. He dropped the rag, his pulse hammering. He'd seen enough, too much. The single mom clutched her son, tears welling as she turned to leave, and Sophie's hands balled into fists, her face pale with fury. Ethan couldn't let it slide another second. "Stop," he said, his voice low but cutting through the noise like a blade. Rachel spun toward him, her lip curling. "You again? Stay out of this, newbie, or you're done too." Ethan took a breath, then reached up, slowly, deliberately. He pulled off the cap, letting it drop to the floor, and peeled away the fake beard, the itch finally gone. The glasses came next, clattering onto the counter. The transformation was instant. His sharp jawline, dark eyes, and quiet intensity replaced Jake with Ethan Carter, CEO of Harbor Brew. A gasp rippled through the shop. Sophie's jaw dropped, her eyes darting between him and Rachel. Customers whispered, phones lifting to snap pictures. Rachel's smirk vanished, her face draining of color. "I'm Ethan Carter," he said, his tone steady but edged with steel. "I own this place, all 15 of them. For 2 days, I've watched how you run things, Rachel, and it ends now." He turned to the room, raising his voice. "Everyone, staff, customers, I'm sorry you've had to deal with this. It's not what Harbor Brew stands for." He fixed his gaze on Rachel. "You're done. Fired, effective immediately." The shop erupted. Staff froze, cups clattering to the floor. The single mom stood rooted by the door, her toddler quieting as she stared. Sophie covered her mouth, tears brimming. But Rachel didn't budge. Her shock twisted into rage, her voice a snarl. "You can't fire me like this. I've kept this dump running while you sit in your fancy office." She slammed her phone down, stepping closer. "You think you can waltz in here, play hero, and kick me out? I've got rights." Ethan held his ground, unflinching. "You've had chances to do better. You chose to bully staff, scare off customers, and turn this place into a joke. I'm the owner. I decide who stays." Rachel laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "Oh, you're a real saint, huh? Coming in disguise like some coward. You don't know half of what it takes to run this." She grabbed her bag, shoving past Sophie hard enough to make her stumble. "I'm not leaving. Call the cops if you want. I'll sue you for everything." Chaos broke loose. Customers shouted, some cheering Ethan, others yelling at Rachel. A barista ducked into the back, panicked, while another tried to calm the crowd. Rachel stormed behind the counter, knocking over a stack of cups, screaming about unfair treatment. Ethan stepped forward, his voice rising over the noise. "Rachel, leave now, or security's next. This isn't a debate." She hurled a tray at him. He dodged, the plastic skittering across the floor. Sophie grabbed his arm, pulling him back. She's unhinged. Be careful! Rachel's eyes blazed, her chest heaving. You'll regret this, Carter, all of you! She snatched her phone and bolted for the door, shoving the single mom aside as she went. The woman yelped, clutching her son tighter, and Ethan rushed over. You okay? He asked. She nodded, dazed. Yeah, thank you. The shop buzzed with adrenaline. Staff huddling, customers filming. Ethan turned to Sophie, his expression softening. You stood up for her. That took guts. Sophie wiped her eyes, still reeling. I couldn't let her do that. Ethan nodded, then faced the room. Everyone, stay calm. We're sorting this out. His heart pounded, the weight of his reveal sinking in. Rachel was gone, for now, but the mess she'd left was his to clean. Buckle up, folks. This ride's far from over. The air in Harbor Brew still buzzed with the echoes of Rachel's exit, the clatter of her thrown tray ringing in Ethan Carter's ears. He stood at the center of the Santa Monica shop, his cap and beard gone, his CEO presence undeniable. Customers lingered, some whispering, others slipping out after the chaos, while the staff hovered, shell-shocked, their eyes darting between Ethan and the door Rachel had stormed through. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The reveal had been a grenade, and now he had to rebuild from the rubble. The single mom by the door clutched her toddler, watching him with wide eyes, and Sophie stood nearby, her hands trembling, but her gaze locked on his. Ethan knew this was the moment, sink or swim. He turned to Sophie, his voice calm but firm. Sophie, you've been the backbone here. I saw it yesterday with that homeless guy, and I saw it today with that mom. You're assistant manager now, effective immediately. You've earned it. Sophie's eyes widened, a tear slipping down her cheek. Me? Are you sure? She whispered. Ethan nodded, a faint smile breaking through. Never been more sure. You've got heart and grit. This place needs that. The staff murmured, some nodding, others exchanging uneasy glances. Ethan raised his voice, addressing them all. Rachel's gone. She's not coming back. I've let this shop slide too long, and that's on me. But starting today, we're fixing it. I promise you better support, better leadership. You deserve that. He paused, scanning their faces. Hope flickered in some, doubt in others. Tomorrow a new manager starts. Her name's Clara. She's from our San Diego spot, and she knows how to run a team right. Things are changing. Stick with me. The rest of the day blurred into action. Ethan stayed, talking to each employee, listening to their gripes about long hours, broken gear, Rachel's tantrums. He jotted notes, promising fixes, his pen moving as fast as his mind. By night, he sat in his car outside, exhausted but resolute. He'd fired Rachel, lifted Sophie, and set the wheels turning. But he knew it wouldn't be smooth sailing. Clara arrived the next morning, a woman in her 40s with a calm confidence that filled the room. Her short hair framed a face etched with experience, and her handshake was firm when she met Ethan, still just Jake to most staff. Heard about yesterday, she said, her voice steady. Sounds like a mess, but I've cleaned up worse. Let's get this team on track. Ethan liked her already. She gathered the staff before opening, standing by the counter. I'm Clara, your new manager, she began. I'm here to work with you, not over you. We're building something better together. Sophie, now sporting an assistant manager badge, stood beside her, nervous but proud. The first shift under Clara felt different. She jumped in during the rush, pouring coffee alongside the baristas, her sleeves rolled up. Sophie delegated tasks with a hesitant authority, growing into her role. Ethan watched from a corner table, sipping a black coffee. No disguise this time. Customers noticed the shift. Smiles came easier, orders moved faster. But not everyone was on board. Trouble brewed by midweek. Two baristas, Matt and Kelly, veterans who'd thrived under Rachel's lax rules, pushed back. Matt, a lanky guy with a perpetual smirk, leaned against the counter during a lull, ignoring Clara's request to restock. Rachel never made us hustle like this, he muttered, loud enough for Sophie to hear. Kelly, a sharp-tongued redhead, chimed in, tossing a rag down. Yeah, what's with all this teamwork crap? We were fine before. Sophie faltered, her voice soft. Clara's just trying to help us. Matt cut her off. You're not the boss, Sophie. Don't act like it. Ethan caught the exchange from his table, his jaw tightening. He'd hoped the staff would rally, but Rachel's shadow lingered. By Friday, the dissent spread. Matt and Kelly skipped tasks, whispered complaints to others, ignored Sophie's directions. A younger barista, rattled by the tension, messed up orders, and customers grumbled, the old vibe creeping back. Clara pulled Ethan aside after closing, arms crossed. We've got a clique loyal to Rachel. They're testing us. Sophie's trying, but they don't respect her yet. Ethan couldn't sit back. The next morning, he walked in unannounced, his presence drawing stares. Everyone, huddle up, he called, voice firm. The staff gathered, Matt and Kelly slouching at the back. I've been watching, he said, eyes sweeping the group. Clara and Sophie are here to fix what I let break. Some of you don't like it, I get that. Change sucks. But Rachel's way? It tanked this place. Sales were down, people quit, customers walked away. You want that back? Silence hung heavy. Matt smirked, but Kelly shifted, uneasy. Ethan zeroed in on them. Matt, Kelly, you've got a choice. Work with us or leave. I'm not begging. This shop's mine, and I'm done with poison spreading. Matt's smirk faded. Kelly looked away. Ethan softened, turning to the rest. I'm not just some suit. I built Harbor Brew from nothing because I believed in it. And you, help me make it right. Sophie stepped forward, her voice steadier. He's not lying. I've seen him here, listening. Give Clara a shot. She's good. The room shifted. Some nodded. Others hesitated. Matt muttered something and walked off, but Kelly stayed, picking up a tray. Ethan exhaled. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Over the next days, he stuck around, rolling up his sleeves, facing the doubters head-on. Clara and Sophie found their rhythm, and the dissent quieted. Mostly. The shop wasn't fixed yet, but the tide was turning. Ethan knew the real test lay ahead. Hang tight, folks. The brew's getting better, but there's more to stir up. 2 weeks had passed since Ethan Carter unmasked himself at Harbor Brew, and the Santa Monica shop hummed with new life. The tension that once choked the air had lifted. Customers lingered over steaming cups, their chatter blending with the soft whir of the espresso machine. Clara's steady leadership had taken root, her calm directives turning chaos into order. Sophie, now assistant manager, moved with growing confidence, her warm smile a beacon for staff and regulars alike. Ethan dropped in often. No cap, no beard, just him, watching from a corner table as sales climbed and the shop's spirit rekindled. He'd kept his word. New equipment gleamed behind the counter, schedules balanced, and the team, most of them, embraced the change. It wasn't flawless, but it was a start. Still, a shadow lingered, faint but persistent, like a stain that wouldn't scrub out. Late one afternoon, as the rush ebbed, Ethan scrolled through his phone over a black coffee. A text from a regional manager buzzed through. A tip that Rachel had been spotted near the shop, talking to someone. His jaw tightened. He'd thought she was gone for good, fired and out. He glanced around. Clara was restocking, Sophie laughing with a customer. Nothing seemed amiss. But as he stood to leave, he caught Sophie slipping out the side door, phone in hand, her face tight. Ethan edged to the window, peering out. Sophie paced, whispering into the phone. Rachel, I told you. I can't, she hissed. They trust me now. Stop pushing. Ethan's heart sank. Sophie and Rachel? He waited until she returned, then called her to the office, his voice low. I heard you outside. What's Rachel got on you? Sophie's eyes flashed with panic. It's not. I didn't mean, she stammered. Ethan leaned forward, firm but gentle. Tell me the truth, Sophie. I've got your back. Tears spilled as she sank into a chair. She's been calling, threatening to lie. Say I stole money if I don't help her ruin you. I was scared to lose this job. My brother's in college, and I help with tuition. Ethan's anger flared, not at her but at Rachel. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. Sophie sniffed. I thought I could handle it, keep her quiet. He saw her fear, her loyalty twisted by pressure. He exhaled, softening. You're not in this alone. He called Clara in. Rachel's harassing Sophie, he said. We're stopping it. Clara nodded, unfazed. She's still bold, Ethan. We protect her. He turned to Sophie. You're getting a raise, enough to breathe easier. And Rachel, I'll handle her legally if she comes near again. Sophie's eyes shone with relief. Thank you, I won't let you down. He smiled faintly. You never have. That night, Ethan sat in his car, staring at the shop's warm glow. He'd nearly lost this place to neglect, but saving it, saving Sophie, lit a fire he hadn't felt in years. He'd built Harbor Brew to be more than a business, and now he saw it, a chance to make it a home for people like Sophie, for customers who'd been turned away. He wasn't done yet. The next morning, he called his team together, staff, Clara, Sophie. We're not just fixing this shop, he said, voice steady. We're making it the best damn Harbor Brew in the chain. New menu, fresh, affordable stuff. A community board for locals. And a policy. No one's turned away if they're hungry or need a break. We'll fund it from my cut. The room buzzed. Some cheered, others gaped. Clara grinned. You serious? Ethan nodded. Dead serious. This is what we should have been all along. Over the next month, he poured himself into it, staying in his Santa Monica condo, driving to the shop daily. The menu rolled out, homemade pastries, cheap coffee combos, and drew crowds. The community board bloomed with flyers, job postings, art nights. One day, a man in ragged clothes shuffled in, hesitant. Sophie greeted him, sliding a free coffee and scone his way. Stay as long as you like, she said. Ethan watched, pride swelling. This was it, the heart he'd meant to build. Sales soared, the staff gelled, and word spread. Other locations adopted the model, but this shop shone brightest. One evening, Ethan sat with Sophie after closing, the place quiet. You did this, she said. He shook his head. We did, and we're just starting. Outside, Harbor Brew glowed, a beacon of warmth and second chances, his legacy reclaimed and thriving. But then came the twist. Ethan called a meeting with his execs the next week. I'm stepping down as CEO, he said, voice calm. Harbor Brew's in good hands. Clara, Sophie, all of you. I've fixed what I broke, and now I need to find what's next for me. The room went silent, then erupted in questions. He raised a hand. I'm not disappearing, just shifting gears. This place taught me what matters. I'll figure out the rest. He walked out, the ocean breeze hitting his face, a mix of relief and uncertainty washing over him. Harbor Brew would thrive without him. And maybe, just maybe, he'd brew something new. Stick with us, folks. This tale's got heart, and it's not over yet. Harbor Brew in Santa Monica stood transformed, a warm glow spilling onto the street, a far cry from the cold shell Ethan Carter had walked into weeks ago. The journey had been a roller coaster, from slipping in under a scruffy cap to peeling off the disguise in a showdown with Rachel, from lifting Sophie out of the chaos to handing the reins to Clara. Ethan had turned the tide, not just for this one shop, but for the whole chain. The new menu, fresh pastries, affordable coffee combos, packed the place daily. The community board buzzed with life, flyers for local gigs, job ads, even a kids' art night. And that policy he'd fought for? No one turned away if they were hungry or needed a break. It wasn't just words. It was real. Ethan had watched Sophie slide a free coffee to a guy down on his luck, her smile saying it all. This was the Harbor Brew he'd dreamed of back on Venice Beach, a place that didn't just serve coffee, but served people. As he stepped away from the CEO chair, Ethan left behind more than a business. He left a lesson carved deep in the wood of that Santa Monica counter. Compassion and accountability can turn even the darkest corners around. He didn't just fix a shop. He rebuilt trust, proving leadership isn't about standing tall, but lifting others up. Rachel's reign had been a storm, tearing at the heart of Harbor Brew, but Ethan weathered it. He saw the cracks, sales tanking, staff crumbling, customers walking away. And he didn't look the other way. He dug in, got his hands dirty, and made it right. Sophie's grit, Clara's calm. They were the heartbeat he'd been missing, and he gave them the stage. By stepping back, he showed the ultimate move, not clinging to power, but passing it on when the job was done. Harbor Brew thrived now, a beacon on California's coast, because one guy chose to care. So here's the takeaway, folks, straight from Ethan's tale to you. We all run into Rachels in life, those who'd rather tear down than build up, who'd turn away a stranger instead of offering a hand. And we all meet Sophies, folks with heart, fighting quiet battles, just needing someone to believe in them. The question is, who are you going to be? The one who shrugs and scrolls past the mess, or the one who steps up even when it's hard? Ethan's story says it plain. Kindness isn't weakness, it's strength. Accountability isn't a burden, it's a gift. You don't need a CEO title to make a difference, just a willingness to see what's broken and fix it. Maybe it's your local coffee joint, your workplace, your block. Wherever you are, you've got a shot to brew something better. This journey's been a wild one, and I'm glad you've ridden it with me. From the shadows of Rachel's chaos to the light of Harbor Brew's revival, Ethan's off to find his next chapter, but his legacy? It's right here, steaming in every cup, shining in every smile. So let's keep this going, America. Drop a comment. What's a lesson you'd take from Ethan's tale? Ever had a Rachel or a Sophie in your life? How'd you handle it? Or tell me this, how would you brew a better world, one small move at a time? Hit that subscribe button if this hit home, and share your story. I'm reading every word. Let's keep the conversation percolating, because stories like this, they don't just end, they spark something new. Thanks for being here, folks. Let's make it count.